All right, I'll start with introductions, and then after that, I'll tell you kind of the series of events. Obviously, a lot of this is preliminary. You're gonna have a lot of questions, as always, that we won't be able to respond to, either because we're still working through it or because of prosecution, but we'll get to that point. So I'll start left to right. This is Captain Ryan Swanson, who leads our patrol division, followed by Captain Mike Williams, who leads our criminal investigators, followed by Chief Peters from Irondequoit PD, followed by the Deputy County Administrator for the county, David Prabalka, and on the end is Chief Deputy Dan Rittenhouse, who leads our Police Services Bureau. First off, thanks for your patience. I know there's been a lot of questions this morning about what's going on at the government center or what's going on in front of the county jail. And the answer will be determined here by the series of events. It starts on Sunday, which would have been the 8th of December. There was a gentleman who left Irondequoit, which is why the chief of Irondequoit is here, at roughly 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and then he never returned. Ultimately, his family files a missing person report, and on early morning Monday, so now you're into the 9th, it enters into our realm at the Livingston County Sheriff's Office because using technology, they were able to locate the vehicle in the village of Dansville. So for you folks that aren't familiar with the county, Dansville is the southern end of the county. We work with the Irondequoit PD throughout the day trying to locate the actual missing person with no success. So you got deputies, investigators in conjunction with both of our agencies working both sides of it, both Irondequoit and here. And then last night at around 11:40 p.m., the Livingston County Emergency Communications Center, also known as 911, receives a call, and the subject said they were in the parking lot of the sheriff's office and they wished to turn in a deceased body. And then deputies and investigators came obviously to the scene, and we've been working that all night long. So this morning, I can understand there's some, like, what's going on? There's different reports of we found a body to there's somebody dead at the government center. Really, the government center had nothing to do with it. It is solely about a person bringing a deceased body to us and then investigating what do we have going on. Ultimately, we believe that person to be the missing person out of Irondequoit. So Irondequoit and our office continue to work together on this case. We've filed search warrants both for the vehicle, this immediate scene that was this morning, and also other locations throughout the county. The preliminary investigation is the victim is sustained gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead. Again, I have to be careful about how in depth I go here, but I will say at this point, the suspect is charged with felony tampering with physical evidence, which is a felony, and additional other charges will be pending as we continue to execute search warrants and gather evidence. The suspect is Richard Flegel. He's 30 years old, and the victim is Richard Flegel, who is 60 years old. It is a father-son. So with that, I will try to answer some of your questions best I can. Go ahead.
Hi, Sheriff. As well with News 8 here. In terms of the technology that was used to be able to track and locate that car, what about the technology in terms of just tracing back that phone call and then what happened with the actual series of events that had unfolded? Was somebody outside, when officers and law enforcement have responded outside to the building with that phone call, and had anything like that ever happened? It seems very unique.
Yeah, so on the technology, I'm not going to go into that because I like when the good guys get good information and I'll say bad guys don't have all the information and technologies that we use, but technology was used to locate the vehicle on the early hours of the Monday. So I'll leave the technology at that. As far as the call into dispatch saying that they wanted to turn in a deceased body, no, that's very abnormal, as you can imagine. I've never heard of that in my career here. Certainly, I can't think a lot of law enforcement agencies have people doing that. It's a very unique situation where someone calls and says, yeah, I'm here and I want to turn in a body. And yet to further that, then what happens? Well, you can imagine it's basically all hands on deck in trying to figure out, one, why is somebody in our parking lot with a body? Two, who is this person? How did this happen? Is this criminal? Is this natural? Is it a medical event? Is it killing? All those things that you can imagine as cops we have to go through.
But just to clarify, was that person determined that phone call had been made from this physical location, or was it called in and not determined, like, hey, I have a body out, like, in terms of just the physicality?
Oh, I get your question. So you're saying, like, do we believe that the suspect made that phone call from the vehicle in the parking lot? We believe that the suspect made that phone call in the vicinity of the area, saying, I'm here and I have a body.
Sheriff, after everybody showed up after the 911 call, what happened?
It's a regular homicide scene is how it's determined, you know. Even if we didn't believe right then it's a homicide, we treat all those suspicious activities like that as a homicide. So it's immediately taped off. You're preserving the scene for all types of evidence. The biggest play for us is our technicians. You know, those evidence technicians that you guys have probably seen multiple times. It's taped off, and then we bring in our Faro technology, which clearly documents the scene, the measurements, what exactly transpired, whether it's in that car or around that car, even though the scene was brought to us in this case. It is a different type. Typically, we're called to a location, and that's our scene. In this case, the suspect brought it to us, meaning the scene to us.
Was suspect arrested then and there?
Suspect was detained at that point while we figured out what exactly the background was. You know, we don't know. We just get a call to our dispatch center saying, I have a deceased body in my car, here to turn in. So a lot of questions that needed answers. So this suspect was detained at that point, and then ultimately has been charged with felony tampering at this point. So he's being held, and again, we do expect more charges.
When do you think Richard Sr. was killed?
Hey, I'm not going to go into details on that. That's stuff that our criminal investigators are putting together. As you can imagine, there's a lot that goes into it. It's a process, and it's a reverse timeline, if you will. Where was Richard the last time he was seen and spoken to, right until now? Well, what transpired between that last time and him arriving in our parking lot with his son? And that's really what we're focused on right now. And that will determine, again, a lot of different things with charges and what direction we go.
Yeah, Sheriff, were you able to share any more information about the suspect? Was he a native of Dansville? Where exactly are you guys doing those search warrants you mentioned?
I will say that we are executing a search warrant in the county. He was a Monroe County resident, but there is a nexus to the county.
Just to follow up on that as well, Sheriff, was this suspect known to authorities? Have there been any run-ins in the past in any capacity that anyone can talk about?
I'm told that the suspect does have a record, but that we didn't have any interactions with him.
Sheriff, was he already arraigned?
He has not been arraigned.
Are you able to share details on that yet, or?
When he will be arraigned? We have the cap court, so if there's a potential to either be 7 p.m. tonight or 7 a.m. tomorrow. Most likely, I would gather it'd be most likely 7 p.m. tonight. Any other questions?
Can you explain why you think this happened?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into my theories on the whys right now. I don't think that'd be appropriate. I'd rather do what we do and collect the evidence and follow the evidence and see where that takes us and figure out again what does that timeline look like. Why did he come down here, meaning dad, come down here and meet son, and then what interaction occurred? How did we end up to this place with a really unfortunate, tragic story? You know, it's one of those things that I can imagine doesn't make a lot of sense to the family, doesn't make a lot of sense to us, and so that's our job to determine what happened.
And just as a final follow-up, Sheriff, on that, in terms of just the message to the community too, with the uniqueness and just, I guess, sensitivity of the case, you know, just with sharing information, things like that, what's your message, you know, either to extended family or just the community in general in terms of navigating what the next steps are here?
Yeah, to the family, our condolences are with the family. Obviously, this is a tragic event, and they want answers, and we're going to work as hard as we possibly can to give them those answers. As far as the community, you know, we believe in transparency, and public safety is our top priority. This was an isolated incident, and so there never was a mass alarm that went out to the community saying, you know, take shelter. There's a trucker coming through the county that's armed and dangerous. It wasn't that type of incident. It was, hey, we have a person with a dead body in their car, and it's isolated to this. So again, it's unique that it's a public parking lot at the government center. It does start rumors, and you know, they varied. I heard different ones, but the facts are it's isolated. There's no cause for public alarm. The men and women in the sheriff's office got this well in hand, and it will be thoroughly investigated, and I feel very confident that we'll be able to provide answers of how exactly this happened, for, you know, the details that the family's looking for and our community's looking for. Because again, Livingston County is a safe place, so this stuff doesn't happen. We don't have people just show up and say they have a dead body with them and they'd like to turn in. It's just, it's not common. We're fortunate for that in this county. We appreciate that. So again, if there's any more questions, I'll try my best to answer them. If not, I just ask you to be patient with us while we work through this, and I'll try and give you a follow-up. I mean, it might be hours, it might be days, it might be weeks.
One more question.
Sure.
Is the car that came in the same car you were tracking from Ironically?
The car, no.
Okay.
No. I think I understand the question. Is the same car that we located in Dansville the car that came in here? Is that the question?
Right, yeah.
No, different cars.
Sheriff, I actually have one. More generally speaking, do you find that you have to deal with more domestic acts of violence this time of year?
I would have to look at the statistics on that. I mean, anytime the holidays come along and families are getting together, is there the potential? I might just guess at, potentially, but before I answered that with fact, I'd like to look at the data to see if we have a higher number of assaults or any type of violence around Thanksgiving or Christmas that we're now coming into.
And that was the only suspect, right, so far, the Rich?
That's correct, junior.
Is there any other?
There's a junior and a senior, so junior is the suspect, and yes, he's the only suspect that we have in this at this moment. Again, this is very preliminary. This is, you know, hours that we're into it.
Sheriff, I know there could be other charges. Is he being held without bail going forward?
That'll be determined when he's arraigned. Right now, he's being held on the charge of the felony tampering, and then once he goes to cap court, then the judge will determine what and if there is bail. All right, any questions? All right, I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate your patience while we work through this. Again, I know everybody wants the answers like right then, and but you folks have all been patient with us, so I really appreciate it. And I want to thank all our partners in this as well, and especially around the Kuwait PD who continues to be involved and work through it. So again, thank you, I appreciate it.